U.S. allies besieging Russia. A public opinion crackdown against Russia. The U.S. has rallied its European allies to launch a new diplomatic expulsion campaign and a public opinion crackdown against Russia. In addition to the situation in eastern Ukraine, Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny's hunger strike in prison and reports that he is dying has become the latest focus of pressure on Russia by the U.S. and its allies. The U.S. has rallied its European allies to launch a new diplomatic expulsion campaign and a public opinion crackdown against Russia. In addition to the situation in eastern Ukraine, Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny's hunger strike in prison and reports that he is dying has become the latest focus of pressure on Russia by the U.S. and its allies. It is noteworthy that countries including the Czech Republic, Poland, Ukraine, and Bulgaria have joined the U.S. to expel Russian diplomats, mostly claiming that these Russian diplomats have conducted activities incompatible with their status. This is a highly ambiguous reason for expulsion. Once members of the Warsaw Pact or part of the Soviet Union, these countries are now often on the front line of responding to the U.S. call to confront Russia. There are complex historical reasons for Central and Eastern European countries to tilt toward the U.S. and become anti-Russia, which is difficult for outsiders to comment on. It is a pity that internal disintegration rather than coercion from the U.S. had directly led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. The Russian Federation was one of the main promoters of the disintegration, and the original agreement to replace the Soviet Union with the Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS, was signed by Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. Russian leaders who had destroyed the Soviet Union had no idea what would happen to their country afterward. The collapse of the Soviet Union has brought about geopolitical changes globally, and the evaluation of the event is destined to vary from country to country and from time to time. But it has become increasingly clear that Russia has been the biggest loser from that collapse. Many Russians once believed that when the Communist Party stepped down and the Soviet Union collapsed, the US and the West would embrace Russia and respect them who had taken the initiative to end the Cold War. The reality, however, is harsh. Moscow has received no gratitude or kindness from the West. From the moment the Soviet Union collapsed, the US has arrogantly treated Russia as a defeated country in the Cold War, engaging in all possible moves to suppress Russia at will. The collapse of the Soviet Union was a geopolitical disaster for Russia. As the dominant power in the Soviet Union, if it chose to support reforms to solve problems at the beginning, Russia could pay a much smaller price than the geopolitical price it would pay in the following 30 years. Back then, Moscow had a broad sphere of influence and powerful control capability that it could act independently and defiantly against Washington. But it has ceded those geopolitical resources, giving up its advantages. The U.S. vicious attitude toward Russia offers a glimpse into the brutality of great power competition and helps people see through Washington's geopolitical manipulation measures. The U.S. portrayed its Cold War with the Soviet Union as an ideological confrontation to conceal its intention to dominate the world alone. Many people, including Russians, believed that a political change of course would fundamentally change their relationship with the U.S., and that Russia could thus integrate into the West and become a dignified member of the Group of Eight. Yet Russia is too large, with a nuclear arsenal on par with that of the US. It spans the Eurasian continent and advocates multipolarization, with no possibility to becoming a new member of the West that is submissive to Washington. The US then took advantage of its victory, promoted the eastward expansion of NATO, squeezed Russia's strategic space at the fastest speed, and completely abandoned its verbal commitment that after Germany was unified and remained a NATO member, the bloc would recruit no former Warsaw Pact countries and former Soviet republics as new members.